Upgrading Basri, Devoted Paladin Planeswalker deck. Hey everyone, it's VM Campos, Magic Fan. Welcome to another Planeswalker upgrade video. This time we've got an upgrade for the newest Planeswalker to reach the Gatewatch. Well, he's not in the Gatewatch yet. Basri Ket. Devoted Paladin. So what's cool about Basri is that he's a planeswalker from the world of Amonkhet. Interesting story about him, he actually planeswalked before the events of Hour of Devastation, and when he came back to Amonkhet he was like, WTH, why is everything destroyed? I'm gonna be a planeswalker and help everyone. So that's what his deck is all about, helping all of his comrades. It's a deck that's focused on a go wide strategy, which is a lot of little creatures, a lot of, a wide swath of creatures attacking your opponent. It's also got some life gain stuff and some +1 counter stuff. That's a big idea with this deck, so let's upgrade it. I've got my account pulled up here in Arena. The deck is in my Arena account, and I'll tell you all about how to upgrade it to thrash your opponent. So I just finished beating an opponent at the moment. They just rage quit after the amazing stuff that happened in this deck. There's a lot of synergy, like I said. So first of all, we've got Basri, Devoted Paladin, as the star of the deck. This is a 6-mana planeswalker. You get 4 loyalty. +1, put a +1 counter on up to 1 target creature. It gains vigilance until end of turn, so you'll be able to +1 very easily, make one of your creatures stronger and stronger, spread out that +1 turn by turn. You have a blocker because they have vigilance. -1, whenever a creature attacks this turn, put a +1 counter on it. Okay, this is when you've got multiple creatures out on the battlefield. You -1 and all the creatures get a +1 the moment they attack. Nice. -6, creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain flying until end of turn. If you play your cards right, if you've got blockers, defenders for Basri, you'll be able to uptick Basri up to 7, let's say. -6 to give them all that +2 flying, do a big ol' attack, and then continue to do the +1s to do it again if the game goes long. So Basri Devoted Paladin is the top end of this deck. And the first thing that I change is the mana base. Okay, so this deck came with 25 lands. I cut it down to 24 lands, and here's what I've done. So 12 plain old plains, pick whatever one you want. I went with this Core 21 plain, although I could put like a cool Amonkhet land in here too. Then I put 4 Castle Arden Vales, so this enters tapped unless you already have a plains. Then it gives you 1 white mana. Later you can pay 4 to create white human creature tokens. So when the game runs long, you can create a lot of creatures for Basri to help, and then the other cool strategies we've got here. So we got 4 of the Arden Vales. We've got 4 of the Shefet Dunes. This one is from Amonkhet. It's a land, it's a desert. Tap it to add a colorless, or tap it and pay a life to add 1 white. Then 4 mana, tap it, sacrifice any desert. Creatures you control, all creatures you control get +1 until end of turn. Activate this only on sorcery. So you can only do it on your turn, not when your opponents are coming at you. You can't do it at instant speed, you have to do it on your turn. You sacrifice any desert. There's 4 of these in the deck, so you can sacrifice one of the other deserts to do it to one of your deserts you have active. Give all your creatures +1 for a big overrunning attack. Or do it to itself. You can pay that 4 mana, sacrifice this desert, and give all your creatures +1 for the big final coup de grace. Lastly, on the land changes, we've got the Secluded Steppe. So it enters the battlefield tapped, and then it gives you 1 white mana. If instead you don't need more white mana, you can pay 1 white to cycle it, which is discard this card and then draw another card. So definitely, if you need this early on, play it. If you don't need more land, cycle this away and get a better card. So that's the mana base changed up right here. 24 lands with a variety of utility lands to create white mana or do other things. Okay, so as I said, the various strategies of this deck are go wide, meaning make lots of creatures, work with lots of creatures. Counters, so put counters on them, make them stronger, give them buffs and such. And then also life gain. So the way you're going to accomplish that is we have 2 Oketra's Monuments. This is a 3 mana legendary artifact. White creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So you'll get a great cost reduction on all of your white creatures. Then, whenever you cast a creature, any color, but we've obviously got mono color here, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. So you're gonna create so many creatures by the cost reduction of the monument, so many warriors, that you will have a great wide board to really overwhelm your opponent with this cost reduction of the monument. Now, it's a legendary artifact, so you can only have one at a time on the board. Be careful about that. Don't try to cast two at once and then you waste your mana. Basri Solidarity, 2 of these. It's a sorcery. Put a +1 counter on each creature you control. So once again, you start building a board state for 2 mana sorcery. You put Basri Solidarity, +1 on all your creatures. They get from small to swole. 2 of them in the deck. Basri's Lieutenant is similar. It adds a +1 counter to 1 creature, and it also gives you a 3/4. And then this is interesting. When this or another creature dies, if it had a +1, it leaves behind a 2/2. So even if you put this on itself, you get a 4/5. And if the opponent kills it, you're left with a 2/2. Instead, put it on another creature. You have this 3/4 attacker or blocker. Put on another creature. If that other creature dies, let's say it's a 1/1 that becomes a 2/2. That one dies, maybe it traded, and you still keep a 2/2. That's pretty cool. Basri's Lieutenant. Basri's Acolyte is very similar. 4 mana for a 2/3 with lifelink. This is a cat cleric. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1 counter on up to 2 creatures you control. So again, make your small creatures into swole creatures. This has to put it on something else. It can't put it on itself, but it's got lifelink. So more again of these tokens. Go wide, life gain strategy in this deck. We've got 4 of the Basri's Acolyte. Basri's Aegis, I've got 2 of these. This is 4 mana sorcery. Put a +1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. So once again, put 1 counter on 2 creatures. Okay, good. What else besides that? You may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Basri, Devoted Paladin. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. So this is a tutor for your Planeswalker. Put counters on some of your creatures, make them better. Go get a Basri, so that then eventually you summon Basri, and then he can do his amazing stuff as well. And one more, it's not exactly a counter, but the Warded Battlements. This is a creature, it's a 3 mana 0/3 defender, so it cannot attack. But your attacking creatures get +1/+0, so I got 4 of these in the deck. So even your little creatures are going to be attacking as 2/1s, overwhelming your opponent, and this blocker will be there. So again, with the Oketra's Monument out, then it only costs 2, and it creates a creature because of the monument, and then that one creature that you get, that 1/1, actually then is a 2/1 when it attacks because of the battlement. I love this card. It really, really synergizes. Now also think about then, it's Basri Solidarity, put a +1 on this, and it's a 1/4, so then it'll be doing a better job of blocking their 1/1s that are attacking, or their 3/1s, or whatever that are attacking. And again, with these other strategies of counters, you make even this defender even better. Okay, other creatures. Anointed Chorister, 1 mana for a 1/1 lifelink. Once again, have the monument out, you get 2 for the price of 1. It doesn't reduce the cost down to 0. You still have to pay 1. After all, the monument reduces generic mana costs. So anyway, you get a 1/1, it's lifelink. Then eventually when you've got 5 mana, you can make this into a 4/4 with lifelink. Amazing, I like that. So we got 2 of them in the deck. Now, life gain is also going to be important because we've got the Fountain of Renewal, 1 of them in the deck. It's an artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life. So little by little, you're gaining 1 life. Then later, when you don't need that much life, you pay 3, sacrifice this fountain, and it draws you a card. More cards is more good. Well, what's more good also is that life gain, because then, Speaker of the Heavens. This has got Vigilance and lifelink, 1 mana for a 1/1. And then you can create 4/4 angels simply by tapping the Speaker of the Heavens. However, activate this ability only if you have at least 7 life more than your starting total. So you're going to need 27 life for this to work, and only anytime you can cast a sorcery. So you can't do it on your opponent's turn when they're attacking you. You suddenly summon an angel. It's got to be on your turn, and you have to have 27 or more life. You should be able to do it with the Chorister, with the Speaker of the Heavens itself, with the Fountain of Renewal, with counters being put on various other things, as we will see here. For example, the Sigiled Contender, it's a 3/3. This has lifelink as long as there's a +1 counter on it. So if you manage to put Basri Solidarity on it or any other way, make it a 4/4 with a +1 counter, it gets lifelink, and then you can gain that life to get past that 27 life for the Speaker of the Heavens to do its thing. And lastly, the Aven Gagglemaster. I love the name of that one. 5 mana, but again, cost reduction possibly down to 4. Is a 4/3 with flying, and then when the Gagglemaster enters, gain 2 life for each creature you control with flying. So there's 2 of them in the deck, and that means that if you summon one, it'll gain you the 2 life for itself. And then if next turn you're able to summon another one, you'll gain 4 life in total. 2 for the one that's already there, and 2 for the new one. So even more life to do the Speaker of the Heavens, and then another flyer to then add a counter to do all of this amazing cool white strategy. Well, in the meantime, while you're setting up the board, you're going to need some removal. And here's the removal we've got. Seal Away, 2 mana, flash enchantment. When Seal enters the battlefield, exile target tapped creature and opponent controls until this leaves the battlefield. So this will work in many ways. They're attacking you with their big scary 4/4 creature, no problem, seal it away for 2 mana. It's done. What I've also loved doing with Seal Away is when they've got their pesky Hexproof Paradise Druid, you know the one, that annoying little green creature that has Hexproof until it taps. So as soon as it taps for them to do their thing, seal it away. Amazing. We've also got Swift Response, which is very similar, except it's an instant that then destroys the creature instead of exiling it. So this will be able to, once again, as soon as something taps, destroy it. So sometimes you'll want to destroy things, sometimes you'll want to exile things. So we've got 6 of that kind of removal in total. Next, we've got Banishing Light. So this is another exile effect. This, however, hits target non-land permanent. So this will get rid of their artifact, their enchantment, their creature, their token, their planeswalker for only 3 mana. One of my favorite, more permanent types of removal. And then lastly in the removal, Wrath of God. 4 mana, the classic card that just destroys everything and they cannot be regenerated. Regeneration doesn't really matter nowadays, but it's still there because it's a classic card from way back in 1993 with brand new art in the new Amonkhet Remastered. So Wrath of God, just in case you need to wipe out your opponent's stuff that's going a little bit too go wide. That was very valuable in a game I had recently where my opponent was also doing a bunch of tokens, and before that things got too out of hand, I did the Wrath of God, which also took out their token generating synergy, and it really, really helped. The last card in the deck is another Planeswalker. We've got Ajani, Adversary of Tyrants. 4 mana, 4 loyalty. +1. Put a +1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. So once again, more counters on your creatures. Get that +1 counter on that contender to get you more life. Put that +1 counter on that battlement to hold off their little counters. Or just put another counter on one of your big creatures to make it even bigger. -2. Return target creature card with converted mana cost of 2 or less from your graveyard right to the battlefield. So if you lost your Anointed Chorister, bring it right back. If you lost your Speaker of the Heavens, bring that one right back. Johnny will gladly help out there. Now the big goal, however, is to get to 7 loyalty because -7. You get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, create 3 1/1 white creature cat tokens with lifelink. So I've done it easily where I get exactly up to 7 and then I -7 because you get an emblem that's permanent. And at the moment, there are no ways to interact with emblems. There's no way for the opponent to get rid of this emblem. So every turn you will be, for free, creating 3 1/1s. And again, they're not just 1/1s because they're going to attack as 2 1s if you've got the battlement out. They're going to attack stronger if you've got the Basri Solidarity or the Basri's Aegis or the Lieutenant or the Acolyte. So 3 1/1s every single turn, yes please. Now to be even more on brand, what you could do is put one more Basri Ket, the 3 mana Planeswalker, instead of a Johnny. Then you have double Basris in your deck and your opponent will surely rage quit in confusion. What do you get with this Basri? Okay, 3 mana, 3 loyalty, +1. Put a +1 counter on up to 1 target creature, it gains indestructible. So put it on your 1/1, it becomes a 2/2, it attacks, and then it lives. -2. Whenever 1 or more non-token creatures attack this turn, create that many +1 white soldier creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. So once again, this really rewards you for a go-wide strategy. Once you've got lots of creatures out, but not tokens, and they attack, you will create that many of them. So let's say you've got the Anointed Chorister, 2 of them, plus the Speaker. Those are attacking. Well, you're going to get 3 free creatures that are also attacking. And then better yet, you've got, again, the Warded Battlements. I love that card so much. They all get that extra +1, and those 1/1s are even bigger. -6. You get an emblem, which once again, your opponent cannot deal with this emblem. It just exists. As of this moment right now, there's no way to deal with emblems, unless your opponent quits, which I approve of. You get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat, on your turn, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token and put a 1 counter on each creature you control. That's amazing as well. So you automatically get a 1/1. Actually, it's a 2/2, because then you also put a +1 on everything. So definitely this is one to consider instead of the Ajani Adversary Tyrants, or instead of the 6 mana Basri. That's another way. Put in that Basri. Or if you even go up to 61 cards, I won't tell anyone. You can have 61 cards and have that extra Planeswalker right there, as well as your synergistic Ajani Planeswalker. Lastly, let's look at the sideboard. Okay, if your opponent has graveyard shenanigans, Tormod's Crypt cannot be beat. 0 mana artifacts, so the big brain play is to play this even before your first land. Your opponent will stand agog that you're able to play something for free. Then what happens? Tap it, sacrifice it, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. So all of those Aftermath cards from Hour of Devastation, all of those escape cards from Theros Beyond Death, all of those Jumpstart cards from Ravnica, this will remove their graveyard for 0 mana. Completely 0 mana, because the tap doesn't cost anything also. Let's say your opponent has lots of great artifacts or enchantments. Well, here's one of the best ones to remove that. Back in my day, we had Disenchant. Now we've got Revoke Existence. For the same 2 mana, now you can exile the artifact or enchantment. Back then you would only destroy it, so they could still get it back from the graveyard. This is going to be an exile. What this is also very useful for is exiling the Theros gods. The Theros gods are indestructible, so a naturalize or a disenchant would not be able to destroy an indestructible Theros god, but a Revoke Existence definitely can. It exiles it. Ixalan's Binding, I love this card. 4 mana, enchantment, exile any non-land permanent, and then the opponent can no longer, for the rest of the game, cast that card ever again. Any other copy of that card, that is. So they have, like, an amazing creature that you don't want to make a comeback, or their other enchantment or artifact or planeswalker, never to be returned. And lastly, the Meteor Golem, in case you need to destroy something, no questions asked. 7 mana, 3/3. When Meteor Golem enters the battlefield, destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls. I wish this would have been an 8 mana Meteor Golem to also destroy lands, but Wizards of the Coast doesn't like to publish land destruction cards anymore. Even at 8 mana, come on, we need to do that. Anyway, Meteor Golem is pretty epic, destroys anything when it comes onto the battlefield, and that's the sideboard. Ways to deal with graveyard stuff, artifact stuff, enchantments, things that are a little too permanent. Then we've also got a lot of lifelink going on for the red kinds of decks, a lot of removal for creature-based decks, and even if you don't have creature-based decks, well, we're setting ourselves up for a go-wide strategy to overwhelm the opponent, to have Basri Devoted Paladin leading the charge. So that's the deck. What do you think of my Basri Devoted Paladin Planeswalker deck upgrade? I think we have a pretty good synergy going on here. It's a go-wide strategy, lots of creatures to attack. There's a +1 counter theme with various spells and abilities that will give your little creatures the big buff that it needs. We've got that Warded Battlements that I love. We've also got some life gain strategy to then make some angels. Obviously, the more of these wild cards that you have, the more of them you can craft. For example, Speaker of the Heavens, it's a rare. If you want more of that to be guaranteed to make more angels, plus it's not legendary, so you can do it with both of them on the battlefield. You might want to crack one of your rare wild cards and add another Speaker of the Heavens. We also have very other enchantments and abilities that give the +1 counters to your creatures, or the +1 when they attack and so forth, so that's another way to upgrade the deck. But I think that's a pretty good way to upgrade Basri's deck. If you like this deck, don't forget to go over to my Patreon, patreon.com/vmcampos, to be able to access even more cool stuff. For $1, you'll get access to a lot of the exclusive stuff, all of the exclusive stuff. For the $2 range, I'll actually mail you some vintage cards from my collection in appreciation for being a patron. And if you can't subscribe at the moment, simply follow for free on Patreon to be alerted to everything that I do. Patreon.com/vmcampos. Tell me how you would upgrade this deck. Tell me the amazing things that you would do with it, or the amazing things that you have done with it on my Patreon. Also, come by for our streaming Saturdays. Every 8 p.m. Pacific time, Saturdays, I'm actually playing Magic. So come on over during that time and we'll talk more strategy about making these decks even better. I'll even demo these decks, the best way to play them and so forth. And I'm also playing other formats of Magic at that time. So 8 p.m. Pacific time on my YouTube. Find it on the Patreon right there, or just search VM Campos on YouTube. Come hang out during the streaming Saturdays. This has been VM Campos, and I'll see you on Amonkhet.